Hey folks, Steve here with another baptism by fire video. Boy, I just can't get through this series fast enough, unfortunately. I keep thinking I'm gonna have all this free time. I'm just gonna bang through this campaign, and that's just not the way it's worked out. Sickness continues to plague my house, and we're just getting through it. It is what it is, but it's making it harder to have consistent time to come play this for even a little bit. So I keep thinking, oh man, I'm just in a day or two, I'm going to finish the campaign and then be able to do a review and just move on. It's just not happening that way. It's just a little trickier than that, unfortunately. Anyway, so the last video we covered turns 2, 3, and 4, and it's going to work out that this video should comprise turns 5, 6, and 7, which will lead, ideally, to a follow up video that will be turns 8, 9, 10, right? I think is how that's going to go. And then we'll do a wrap up post mortem review videos all after that. So, this Baptism by Fire series, though a bit delayed, much more delayed than I would have thought, we will hopefully wrap up and get through it. So I've done all the preliminary stuff like I do, and generally it's for the reinforcements. There wasn't a huge amount of things, a couple of units here and there. Really, we're going to see more allies enter the board, and it's just going to get harder and harder, I think, for the Axis to cleanly cut through a formation. They're going to have backup. So there's still some congestion in the north due to these reinforcements coming in. Guys coming in from the north, some coming in on the HQs. They're going to have to disentangle themselves because they don't operate as buddies for the most part up there. That may lead to some failed snafus or some partials that will allow the Axis some time to operate. And as it happens, the in terms of replacements, there wasn't a whole lot there. The Germans didn't get much or any. The Allies got a little bit, and then for the air points, after 2 turns of rain, we're back to no rain, and the Allies have 3 air points. They rolled well, but they still have the -2. The Axis only got a 1, so the air power advantage is certainly to the Allies this turn. And then in terms of snafu modifiers, we are back to no modifiers. So the Germans have been operating under that penalty for the last little bit that certainly hurt their ability to really make some big gains. Well, that's gone away now, so we're back to they started with a +1 on turn 1, then they had a -2 for 3 turns. Now they're back to a flat 0. The Allies have always had a flat 0 game specific turn modifier to their snafu rolls, along with all the other natural rolls that we have. There is one issue that I've run into, which is due to like really good fatigue rolls across the board. The number of counters that have come with the game, I'm having to I'm gonna have to go punch some more out from the counter tray to get fresh markers on these cards. So I've got you've noticed like this guy doesn't even have a fatigue level because his fatigue level's not changed since he's come on the board, and I have to memorize things until I go punch the counters out of the tray in the box and add them. So I'll probably do that. I should have done that before starting this clip. I need to go fix that for several formations on the board just to make sure everybody's well represented in terms of their fatigue levels. But I think besides a couple of the German formations, almost everybody has passed their fatigue rolls every activation every time. I mean, I just gangbusters die rolling for everybody except for the handful of. Well, I guess it's really coming down to the shoot formation and the Stankoff formation. Like they're the only ones who've really failed the fatigue roll and gained fatigue, which is really amusing. You figure across 4 turns, like that would happen more often, right? It's like in many cases a 50-50 chance, and just didn't happen that way. So anyway, let me take care of those fatigue markers, and the Germans will activate their first formation. I'm not sure exactly who they're going to pick here. I think it would be very advantageous to try to work the DAC formation in the west to try to pressure the French. That's over there and try to get closer up in that zone. But um, that's probably the most likely one that we're going to leverage. The alternative would be to focus on Lang here in the north and try to pressure these guys before the combat command. What is that? Is that B? Before they get reinforcements. So kind of a tough decision. I do feel like I'd rather hurt the French while they're in a weakened, unprepared state and go from there. So that's probably what we'll have happen. And then we'll check back either midway through the turn or at the end of the turn and just kind of show how things have grown from here or how things have panned out. Okay, here we are at the end of turn 5, and uh, I'd say that the Axis had a pretty good turn. We still have to do some mine breaching, but we were able to use our tactical movement to kind of go around the mines a little bit. It is creating a little bit of a pickle here. We've got our fast moving, armor units can get up there, but we can't really push through until we bring up our motorized infantry, put them into leg mode, and then have them breach the mines. So the Allies are kind of relying a bit on the mines to delay, but the Germans are cleanly in Kasserine at this point. Now, um, over to the west here, the Welvert formation have all been basically removed. I would remove the HQ and the combat train from the map, except Welvert gets like one reinforcement sometime later, I think, if I'm reading the reinforcement schedule correctly, which really just bounces them back out. But the Germans are cleanly into Bu Chebka and this location as well. And actually, come to think of it, I didn't get uh, an extra objective, so we technically can't be in this hex yet. But we're basically at the edge of the map and can hop right into that victory hex at our leisure here in the next turn. Have maintained control of the Lept, and the shoot formation is now cleanly making a move up through the tracks to again that critical juncture point that will eventually lead to the rest of these green marker victory hexes in Glare Land, as you can see. Um, they are moving their combat trains over now to where they don't have to worry about the track penalty on their snafu rolls. So really doing pretty well here over in the west. Again, the formations we've got a lock on a lot of these red victory hex locations, even if we haven't occupied all of them. These two are kind of going to be tough to go get, but if we clear this junction, then that will allow us to more easily get into those zones with other formations. We can also, I think, I got to look the way the roads connect. We can potentially just move north with our DAC formation. But I've got to watch to see who else could reinforce in reinforcement zone A because we don't want to get caught up in the backfield. So we got to cautiously progress. In the northeast, or try to get this level set here, we're still kind of holding on carefully with Rhyme there. Um, it's not a lot of combat factors to hold back the British Guards unit, which is slowly making its way down the road. We had some not great snafu rolls. There's a lot of baggage train crossing stream issues up north as the Allies are trying to get finangled into place, and they're just not quite getting there yet. Up here, Lang has taken the victory point hex there, and they're just kind of waiting. None of I will say very few of the German formations this turn got their double activation, so it's been kind of a slow. Hey, we took a victory hex, we cleaned up some stuff, we're progressing forward. It's going to be real dicey here, though, and the Germans are going to have to figure out how do they hold on. They certainly want to get Gearhart back in the action because they really need him for defense. Gearhart is not going to come back until, well, I guess this next turn. So never mind. I think actually if I'm trying to rate this out right now, I'd say the Axis has a tremendous advantage on the board. They're going to get their formation back. Um, the Allies are going to get more reinforcements as well. So as more reinforcements kind of filter into the map, the Germans still hold a pretty strong control of the center, at least for the moment. That may change quickly, but if Gerhardt comes back in, then that situation gets a lot better. And then again, if the Axis pushes through here and we're fighting back in this zone, I think that's a much better place that the Germans would rather be fighting in. We're going to draw our victory chit here as we prepare for the next turn here very soon, and that's going to tell us where do we need to prioritize. So we could make a massive shift, maybe to the west and focus on the green victory hexes and the red. That would be one result, and we would focus our effort over here. If it turns out, and I think this would be worse for the Germans right now, if it turns out that they want to go north and we need the blue victory point hexes, I think just objectively that would be worse, but it's going to be random. Um, that would be bad. Like we would end up having to simply shift our weight, and we still kind of need to clear. I think we still need to clear this junction because it connects our two forces without having to deal with all these tracks and passes down here. We want to clear that main road, and then that would enable us to shift a lot of our weight up this way and contest the Allies in the northern sector. So this preliminary set of turns all the way up to this point, we've still not known what our main objective is. So we've just tried to perform well everywhere. I think we've done that as the Axis. The Allies, just due to their action ratings in many locations, just can't help but defend and try to get into better defensive terrain, but they're just getting chewed up. So, uh, like I said, I think the game is leaning towards the Axis at this point, but there's still enough unknown factors here these next couple of turns that are going to be really critical that will probably decide what direction this campaign is going to have to take, and it could be again very challenging. So I'm going to start to do the setup for the next turn, and I'm going to do a check-in to kind of show the state of turn 6 as well as the victory condition decision, and how that's going to shape the next set of operations. Okay, so with the preparation for turn 6 out of the way, let's talk about where we're at. First of all, I drew the victory condition chit, and sure enough, we got the Tabessa chit, which means that we are going to be focused for victory as the Axis on the green victory hex locations up yonder, as well as the red, which I actually think we're in a pretty good position to make headway there. So I think we're really good. It also means that in terms of an auto victory, if we really wanted that, comes down to exiting the all of our tactical movement units through entry point A over here, which I'm not really sure what that looks like to try to do that. I like to get everybody over there requires I don't know, an interesting shift to the west. We're going to do that anyway, but to try to exit everybody off feels really difficult, or I'm not quite sure how we would achieve that. So I'm not going to worry too much about auto victory, but I am going to make sure I am focused on getting those victory point hexes, which means that, really functionally, besides this hex, which is sort of the center ground of the map, I don't care about anything else. So, sorry for the weird camera pan there. So all these blue victory hexes, I actually don't care about anymore. They're not worth anything to me. So it almost doesn't matter that I had control of that one. It doesn't matter that I have Lang up there. It's a total who cares kind of moment. The only excuse me, the only real value maybe being I still can draw supply out this direction. So as Gearhart returns, and Gearhart is returning this turn right there, and I'm going to send him down the main road this way, just as fast as I can. There's not a whole lot of value in holding that area. Um, this now shifts a lot of our focus. I don't care that the Allies are kind of swarmed in at the north. What I need to do now, really, is Lang needs to pull back and run down the road towards here. And then at the same time, we will probably want to continue to hold this zone with Rhyme, get Gearhart down here as well. All three of those formations are buddies, so I don't care about the combat trains being mixed up or mixed formations or any of that stuff. They can all work together. Try to pull that whole operation, um, the 10th Panzer collectively, that darker brown formation set. Bring them all down here and hold the back door, and contest the Allies. And it could be when the infantry slowly works their way down here that we're going to have to cut and run or decide to do something. Um, because I found in BCS a large infantry division can be very dangerous because of the numerous number of steps, or the large number of steps, and then also artillery, which just means over time those guys can just eat away at an enemy force, even if they are potentially getting knocked around by armor. They can still take some attrition and try to work on the enemy. So we got to watch out for that. So we don't want this to collapse, but if we can pull all three formations down here, maybe kind of keep a supply path open down that road back to Fade, then that kind of takes care of our right flank, our eastern flank, and then what it means is the DAC formation can continue to control and push this way. The Allies still have some pending reinforcements that could come in at A, so we're going to have to be prepared for that. Um, we can't spring too far forward. We may have to deal with Allies showing up in our backfield. But the DAC formation can look at moving up this way, and then our 21st Panzer formations, which are here, which I've decided to allocate Rommel. So Rommel is now part of the game. All it really is we designate what larger formations Rommel is assisting with, and they get a bonus to Snafu. They get a bonus to reactivation, or the double activation, rather. The goal for these guys: continue to push and press, clean out there, and then start heading north. And at this point, the Allies just got another formation as a reinforcement way up there. You can just barely see it in Glareland, whose job is going to be to kind of back up Stark, who's really not going to be long for this world just due to action ratings alone. So there's a little bit of a time pressure now. The Germans need to operationally rotate and kind of change direction for some of their formations, mainly the 10th Panzer. And then these existing set of forces down here need to continue to operate on their objectives, clear things out of the way, and start trying to work their way into the backfield to get these other victory point hexes that they need for victory. Right now, the Germans control one, two, three, four. They control four, and they're going to very easily get a fifth victory point, which in terms of victory, that is, let's see, what would that be considered? If we ended up with five, that's an Allied victory. So we're going to need to grab at least four more to reach any real victory level, and that's going to mean at least getting up into here. So we're going to have to get through this channel, this major opening in the mountains, get through there to the other side and try to grab some of these other victory locations in the more open terrain, and that's where our armor is going to be really really useful. So interesting development here. I think it's what the Axis would have wanted to get. Now we need to actually act upon it and see it work out. In terms of replacements, both sides got a couple of replacements each, one of each type basically, so not a huge amount of stuff. Those reinforcements we already talked about. The DAC formation is getting a couple more battalions that will help kind of protect their position and operate. So I think we've got a really good think we've got a good plan of action here as the Axis to operate. The Allies just feel very reactionary right now. Of where can we go? We need to be able to threaten the Axis. Most of the places that we can threaten them now don't matter. So we're going to have to hope for reinforcements, changing the balance, and then pushing on the ally or pushing on the Axis here in the center to try to break something open and get behind the Germans. Basically, that at least that's the idea I think we got to pursue. In terms of first player, the Germans won again, so they're going to get the first activation. Um, right now, I don't know. Like, I don't think I have a very pressing uh, set of actions to trigger. I think the main one would be maybe getting Gearhart activated and running down to reinforce over here. I think that's probably the best um, the best one to pursue at this point. So I think we're going to try to do that, and then yeah, I just think that's what we'll end up doing. So probably Gearhart first, get them down to Svetla, and then we'll see what happens. So we'll come back at the end of turn 6 and kind of show how things have developed from here. Okay, here we are in the aftermath of turn 6 and the beginning of turn 7. So I've already done the reinforcement preparation, all the preamble stuff. So this coming turn will be clear weather. Both sides only have a handful of air points. Rommel staying with the 21st Panzer formations. And kind of interesting how things are playing out. So in the last turn here, I should have adjusted the camera. I'm sorry about that. In the west, the DAC Deutsche Africa formation had continued to kind of slowly bring their other reinforcements up, push into and pass the mountain pass to get to the edge of the map and start poking up north. What's funny about that is, as the Allies, I'm bringing in the 1st Infantry Division right on top of them, basically, right here near this victory point hex and right by some of those German units, which will make for some interesting clash. And what I really dislike, and I kind of experienced the same problem with Air Corps, is like there's too many victory points really close to the edge of the map, and that just ends up being weird stuff. And you can't say that like, oh, there's plenty of room to maneuver. Well, no, this is really like in tough terrain, but I have to go for the victory hex. I'm gonna try to grab it, but maybe I should have hung back. I don't know. Welvert, the remnants of Welvert here, did get some assignments. I decided the independent reinforcements that were coming in, I could use with Welvert and try to stop or like jump over and block the advance of the DAK there, the DAC forces, from reaching those victory point hexes further north to try to close off an axis of advance. And that's what they're going to hope to do with the help of the 1st Division and hopefully tie the Germans up there. Again, I really dislike that there's a victory point hex here, just right at the edge of the map. I mean, I don't know what to do with that. But so it goes. What's interesting is that the Axis is getting the Centro division of Italians here, and they're going to need to figure out a place to advance and move up. I'm thinking I'll eventually be sending them up the tracks this way and try to run them into sort of a trident now, the DAC formation, the 21st Panzer formations here, and then trying to sneak through the Italians to cause some grief and trouble and maybe grab some victory or back up the DAK. But we're going to have some crossing stream issues as we get going here. Funny how, for as much open area as there is, the axis of advance is really constrained to certain roads, and multiple formations are just kind of walking over each other where they're not buddies, basically. Now, in the slightly further east bit here, the 21st Panzer enjoyed a good set of activations. The Rommel chit really came in helpful to breach the mines. They still slow us down, but we're already kind of working our way past those guys, and we really ripped the Stark task force to shreds. The remnants are now north of the mountains, recuperating, trying to stay maybe a little bit out of the way, so they can try to recover and get moved off of their movement sides. Basically, the Stark formation was destroyed except for two units that got retreated off the map to be reinforcements. So they do come in. There's a few steps with each. So the Stark, I guess the Stark formation isn't totally destroyed, but we've really negated their ability to hold ground for the moment. The Nick formation needs to try to come down here and kind of hold and replace the Stark task force, and they need to work together to try to keep Shoot and Stenkoff bottled up. But this is going to really come down to the initiative roll, which I've not done, the first player determination, which I've not rolled yet, because the Germans are going to pick one of these guys to move forward, capture a victory hex with their objective, move beyond it, create a new perimeter, and basically be well on their way to pushing for victory, um, and really feeling like they're in good shape. Further east here, we continue to maneuver to just kind of hold a defensive line. So as the Allies stomp down the 34th Infantry and the 1st Guards, as they come down, the Germans are going to be ready to counterpunch and basically try to maul them and just keep them from coming down. And I've also selected to use the Lang formation up here in the north, um, to basically just threaten the Allied rear position. We're facing a couple of combat commands. So far, we've had the advantage. If we can beat those guys up, and Lang can even decide to push, not for the point of victory hexes, because again, we don't care about the blue ones anymore. I should really remove the chits, if only to threaten the backfield of the Allies and keep them tied up so that the pressure doesn't build here in the center and we can retain control of the victory hexes. So for the Allies, they just really need to get their reinforcements in good positions. They've not really been able to cause many step losses to the Germans at all, which means they're just fighting from the back heel this whole campaign. And really, for the Axis, like their combat plan is very clear. They know what they need to do. They're going to keep doing that. They're going to push into Glareland and try to grab a few more victory hexes and just keep the Allies off balance. If they can do that, if they can keep that achieved, they're going to be able to get a victory. Now, it could end up that if the Allies can fight back hard enough, we end up in a draw state if the Axis only controls so many hexes. The way it works out, just referencing the playbook, is the Axis needs 9 or more. If there's 8, it's a draw. If there's 7 or less controlled by the Axis, it is an Allied victory. So if the Allies can keep the Axis from advancing too far, they can achieve a victory. But it's really hard to tell where we're going to see that happen. And I should still point out that for the most part, several German formations still have strong support, and the Allied armor has just really had no chance to affect that support, really have not found any good way to leverage their resources. Maybe infantry with their artillery could start making a difference and burn through some of the German formations. That is feasible, but it's going to be pretty tough going here for the next. Let's see. There's really 4 more turns. So while German advantage, the Germans are on a timer. We have 4 turns to make what we need to make. The Allies have 4 turns to try to make something else happen, and it's going to be tight, I think, till the end. So let me play through here turn 7, and we'll look to wrap up the video. Okay, here we are at the end of turn 7, and the Italian reinforcements are moving forward slowly. The First Infantry are coming onto the board. They actually did eliminate a German unit. I mean, I guess technically it was an Italian unit based on the color, but they pushed back on the Deutsche Afrika Korps formation group, and you can see they've sort of like etched out ahead here, which puts some units in a little bit of trouble once the activations are all going to be done the next time. Could be some isolation. I'd have to look at it, but I do suspect that those units are going to get pushed out of the way. It's almost an artillery grind. The one saving grace for the Axis here being that that DAC formation has a fair bit of artillery. So when you look at big masses of infantry like that, you need to hit them with artillery and just burn them up, which they are doing. So I don't really think the Axis is going to lose this fight. They have the Italians as backup if they need it. We've also managed to face the remnants of the Welvert formation. The Welvert formation did make an attempt to break away and try to push back some of the units there, but that hasn't gone well. And really, just looking like the Axis have it over here. I don't think I'm going to be rushing anybody off the map, but they're in pretty good control of the situation. They were the last ones to go through that victory hex, so we would say that technically the Axis, I guess, still controls it. Out here, just with the inability for the Allies to hold a double activation from a shoot, has seen them run all the way out, and they're grasping control of these victory hexes with some in front of them, with almost no one to stop them. Over here, the Nick formation has been battered back, and the Stark Task Force is on the retreat, just trying to find a place to get something solid going. I mean, this feels like I I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm running away with it with the Axis here. They're just doing very well. Every combat is very carefully selected. My strength of knowing the system is performing well on the attack, and I don't see where the Nick formation can actually make a huge difference here. But we'll see. Um, in the central section, again, I have managed to use Rhyme and Gerhardt's formations to really knock back the first guard pretty heavily. In fact, we've managed to surround some forces, drop support, and just to show the dead pile, we've eliminated some units straight up um, due to that. Just repeated attacks, leveraging mechanized infantry to do shock attacks, followed by a regular attack, and you can burn away some units pretty well. So that we had sort of, I don't know if we laid a trap, but we just had our formations down here in really good shape so that as the first guards came down the road, we were able to just jump on them and beat them down, while still the 34th Infantry is likewise coming down the road, but they're going to have to spread out and figure out what they can do to maybe attrit away the Germans. That may be their best hope. Further north, the Lang formation is basically cleaning up the remnants of these combat commands. Like pretty much everywhere on the map, the Germans are just winning. They're just crushing the Allies, and I don't know what I can do. Like I just don't. I feel like in none of the areas that I really need to make a difference, do I have the action ratings to make a punch through or to make these combats more attritional. I just don't seem to have it. I don't know if that I don't know if this is an imbalanced scenario. Maybe it's not imbalanced, but on the attack, I'm just doing very well. I'm just doing extraordinarily well. I just know how to use the system to my advantage, and it's hard as the defender to figure out where can I hold on? What can I even do? Um, at this point, I need to maybe be thinking about rotating some of our infantry, through the mountains. Can I even do that? No, there's not really any clear good passes here. I'd have to retreat all the way back, it looks like, to then switch gears. I just can't get in and defend these victory point hexes at all. I just don't know what I can do. So, as it stands right now, the Germans would be in control of one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine ish victory points. So they're almost achieving victory, and really there's not much to stop them from grabbing some of these victory hexes over here. The reinforcements are now small enough that there's just not a lot of give left. I'm going to have to chalk this up to very likely being an Axis victory. I will play through um, the last couple of turns here. I feel like I still need to do that
just to see if there's any other surprises. But I think just, even if we were to lose over here, um, or at least get beaten back, would that be would the Allies have enough time to try to rush down here and seize control of these victory hexes? I'm thinking not. Over here, I mean, we're kind of just winning on the edges of the map, and we can still grab several more victory hexes. I think it's achievable with the 21st Panzer with Rommel's support. I think we can achieve it. So I don't know. I think this is going to be an Axis victory. I think from a post-mortem perspective, I'm going to have a hard time figuring out how does an allied player win out on this one. I just don't know. I maybe I need to think through the defensive positions a bit better. I maybe could have made some decisions early a bit better, but things have just gone very well for the Axis. There's no other way to talk to it. So that's it for this one, guys. Turns 5, 6, 7. Next one will be 8, 9, or 10. No matter what the last video in the campaign, and we'll be talking post mortem here very soon. So thanks for watching. Take care. Keep gaming.